If you were playing Guess That Tune, you'd only need the first three notes of that song to guess that it was Cats in the Cradle. In the late fall of 1974, that record began to be played on the popular radio stations around the country. It was a song that Harry Chapin and his wife Sandy created. It became part of the most enduring anthems of fatherhood and family, and one of my personal favorites growing up. In the spring of 1977, March 28th to be exact, Harry Chapin and his entourage came to Central Michigan University, where I was a freshman at the time, and they performed at Rose Arena. I quickly went and plunked down my $5 to see this man I had only heard on the radio and saw on TV. He was known for his generosity, and the proceeds of the concert would go to Special Olympics. As I recall, there was a bit of a controversy because the university administration had decided not to allow him to sell his T-shirts for his organization dedicated to ending world hunger. I also remember the many empty seats, as it was far from a sellout. I can still see him on stage singing the songs he was best known for by his fans. 20,000 pounds of bananas, he belted out. WOLD. At one point, the band left the stage for a short break, and Harry took his guitar and sat on the edge of the stage and sang a lesser-known song, Mail Order Annie. He told us the story behind the song, introducing us to Miss Annie Halsey and her husband-to-be, Harry Crane, in the song. Then, on his harmonica, he began that sweet melody. There have been but a handful of times that I've been moved the way that song moved me that night. Mr. Chapin invited the audience to sing along on some of his songs, and knowing us the way he did, when he got to the line of his semi-autobiographical song, Taxi, when she handed him the $20 for a $2.50 fare and said, he stopped and let us all in unison yell out, "Harry, keep the change!" And of course he sang that anthem to fatherhood that influenced so many lives, Cats in the Cradle. The rumors circulated that because he was not allowed to sell his T-shirts at the stadium, he would be at a local record shop. I, of course, walked that short distance, hoping to meet him. Through the crowd I saw him walking, much shorter than I imagined. Maybe I thought he would tower above people the way celebrities do in our minds. But the closest I could get was 3 or 4 rows behind the pressing crowd that prevented me from meeting the man who had penned those enduring words. As the experience ended, and I slowly walked back to my dormitory, I was overcome with a feeling of, well, I really can't quite describe all these years later the way I felt. But I knew I had been a part of something very special that night. I remember the day he died. Working on my car there in the yard, the radio announced that Harry Chapin, 38, had been killed in an automobile accident on the Long Island Freeway. I stopped what I was doing and went into the house to tell my wife the news. The inscription on his headstone, taken from one of his songs, says simply, "Oh, if a man tried to take his time on earth and prove before he died what one man's life could be worth, I wonder what would happen to this world." Harry would have been 80 years old December 7th, 2022. I'd like to think he lived out those words he penned and were inscribed on that headstone. And every now and then when I hear a song of his, I revisit that night in memory, and once again those feelings flood my mind exactly the way it did so many years ago, and the time I almost met Harry Chapin.